Welcome back to the Glint Standard. Today we're going to be talking about the value of client relationships. Seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, it's $50.
Clients have value.
Oh, yeah.
$50, $100,000.
$50.
They have value, right? If yes, you will become a client. Yes, you have value,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but I think it's more about the opportunity of it, right? So when I think about it, I think about I think about like relationships, right? So when we're having those relationships with the client and we're having opportunities on both sides of it, right? So for us as an agency, obviously we get long-term revenue the longer we have the client, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
We're more integrated, right? But also the longer that we're with the client. A good example of that's like TBYS, right? Think Before You Sleep. That's one of the brands that we've had for over 10 years now. And when we think about those kinds of clients, we think about like, man, like we know their brand inside and out. We understand their market. We understand everything like that's really going on. And not that we're not paying attention to brand new clients, but it's not a whole new learning curve, right? We've been doing this. We're in a groove. We kind of get a better understanding, a good feeling.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with the relationship, really?
I think it just opens
Right.
up more opportunity, right?
Okay.
From their side as well, right? So we start thinking and talking about challenges that, okay, hey, we noticed your industry got hit by this, right? This is how we think you guys should handle it. This is how we should move forward. There's a lot of built-in trust already because we've done those things probably in the past, right?
Right.
So there's just opportunities. We can move faster. We can make adjustments and adapt.
They trust what we're saying.
Absolutely.
And you can kind of make things happen and not getting second guessed. And
Yeah.
it's not both of you trying to client in, the agency trying to put the opinion about it, but the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I think of it in terms of just the bond you get with it as well. When you go into things now, you're problem solving together.
Right.
Let's talk about this. Let's get into it. Let's figure it out. Let's move on. We trust you guys to run with it. I have some concerns. Let me lay them out. And you can truly have a conversation.
Right.
Versus the agency becoming the order taker or the client directing everything or vice versa. It's a really difficult way to work.
Yeah. And I think it, as you said, it becomes a relationship, right? And it's that building of a relationship. And I think it's, I think through some of our like clients that just come on, and in the first few months they're like, well, this isn't in contract. Do we talk to them about it? Do we not? And it's kind of like, hey guys, like that's totally fine. We can talk about those things. We can have a conversation. Right. Clients that we've had for a long time,
and feel comfortable having the conversation.
Yeah. And it's not just this awkward kind of thing. But I think even like some of our other clients, they drop by and they just sit down and just vent, or, hey, this is what's going on in our business. And we get a better understanding of their business.
And they don't always want us to solve it either.
Right.
Just they lay it out and we go, we have another client that's gone through that. Here's a way to maybe approach that.
Yeah.
And knowing that's there, but you don't have to solve something, you just need to listen, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Is the relationship that you're building with the client or with the representative of the company?
I think that's always difficult, right?
Right.
And especially when you have the same methodology that like we have as an agency. You want one point of contact there, you want one point of contact here, because it streamlines communication and allows both teams to then take the information and do however they want to manage it, right? Project management or what have you. So it's hard to say, and I think that's on a per client basis.
It is tough. I think the bigger the brand, the bigger it's on, the more it's on the
person.
No, the less it's on the person, honestly. Is the higher marketing type people tend to transition more often. So that relationship is great and you want a great relationship there, but which one are you building? And a lot of times if we'll call it a marketing director leaves, the agency's gone too sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing to build, and I think you're trying to build that perfect situation relationship-wise with a client or with the person that represents the client. You have to remember it is what it is, and it's about doing the right thing, trying to fit the best you can. You're going to work very closely together, so you're not going to do it with people you don't care for or you dislike.
Yeah.
There's not an amount of money in the world that's worth that.
Right.
So sometimes you leave with marketing directors, sometimes they leave when you stay with the client itself, and sometimes both happen. It just depends on how you're touching things within the organization. How they're structured has a lot to do with it as well.
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest changes that I've noticed. I mean, people more towards my generation, less your generation, but my generation, are. Did you pick up on that?
I get where you're
going. Yeah, we're quicker to shift job roles, right? There's not a lot of tenure,
even internally,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking just like I just think of like my generation. We as a generation are jumping jobs more than before, right? We don't care about the 401k. It'll come with us, it'll all those kinds of things where it used to be you'd be in your job 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah, that was quite a while ago.
Well, yeah, it's like, it was, yeah.
It was a thing, though.
It was a thing. And, now that's really not a thing. Like, people are staying in their positions a lot less time.
Well, that just goes to show you as well that being able to communicate and build relationships, how much more important that is now, no matter what your job is.
Right.
Even if you're not a true marketer, or maybe you're just a designer. Being able to build relationships matters.
Yeah.
Right. And those connection points.
Yeah, and I think it's you get to the point where you get really, really comfortable and you're able to just pick up the phone and talk to somebody, right? And it's that natural progression of.
So what I love about what you just said there is pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
Oh man.
Not email or text. Although that's happening as well.
I was gonna say, there are clients that are more in your age bracket that prefer to text. Me even, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, and my favorite is like one client. She'll know who she is when we say it, but if you call her, she's like, "Please text me." That's what her voicemail says, and it's like, all right. So
I'm mobile. I'm moving. This is how I get my touch points in quickly.
She's like, I'm not gonna listen to this.
But that's knowing the relationship and having that and being able to do that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, but and that's just part of it. I mean, it's client relation when it comes down to it from an agency side, right?
Right.
But the thing I often think is missed is from a client side. The more that you're with an agency, the longer you're with an agency, and the more that relationship is built up, the more the agency is able to do things like when you come in and you start talking about company culture, right? It's not like we're going to send a representative over there to like, here's how you consult on company culture, right? Unless it's absolutely needed. But like, we just kind of go, oh, okay. Like, yeah, like that's interesting that you're facing that challenge, right? It's not something that we necessarily handle, but let's work through that. Let's have a conversation.
You're talking about being a resource where
we're more of just consulting.
Anything happens at all within the business that's even outside of the realm of what our expertise is. I count on your team to give me intelligent responses that I can take and run with or not run with, but at least gives me good information. That's the same thing about building your peer group.
Right.
That's what you want around. So you're doing the same thing with the companies that you're working with.
Yeah.
Down that path.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's just we have a better understanding of the company. We have a better understanding of where they're at today, right? Challenges they're facing. And the other side of it, I mean, this is our agency, because I can't really speak for other agencies, but our agency, I know immediately. I mean, if it's like a staffing need, we're not a staffing company, but if they're like, hey, we need somebody in HR, we'll tap into our network.
Right.
We'll promote that across our LinkedIn and be like, hey, we have a client that's looking for this, and just being that resource for our clients.
Well, it's being helpful.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's what it is. Can you count on that relationship to help whenever you need that help? How do you feel like it translates to a benefit for us building that relationship?
I think building that relationships helps ease a lot of those conversations later, right? Where they are facing challenges, and it's something that we could help with, right? So a lot of people don't always associate. And the easy connection is always sales and marketing, right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But like, if they're facing a challenge where it's like, our foot traffic's lower than it normally is, I don't know why. We went to this new location and now all of a sudden our foot traffic like dropped off, and I can't comprehend. And it's like, well, let us run by the location and take a look at it, see if there's not something. Maybe, there's a billboard right down the street. We can do a billboard campaign to like drive people in, right?
Go look around, pay attention.
And so I think the more the communication happens and the more natural that feels, where you're not trying to, not necessarily hide, but you just don't want to be completely open about your business's challenges, right?
Yeah, I think part of it too is budgets change all the time. So if you build a good relationship, it doesn't change the fact that budget goes away sometimes. But when it comes back, you're usually a forefront for getting that work again. So from a business standpoint, it's good for that.
Yeah.
Somebody that really believes in the relationship as well is going to try find opportunities and ways to pull you in as well, versus just waiting for something to happen where they can pull you in.
Right.
They're fighting for you as well, because they know if they get you on board, it's going to make their job easier, and they're going to look like rock stars.
Yeah.
I think the relationship really helps develop that, and that's truly where that bond is.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, oftentimes I feel like oftentimes it's even in our own agency. I mean, we have a point person, right? And usually that point person is selected by the agency based on how that relationship can build and grow.
Yeah, right? It's important to do that. Yeah.
Like, I know you're the point person on an account that I probably couldn't be the point person on, right? Like,
yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
And it's nothing against the clients or anything.
Yeah.
It's just, you guys built a better connection. You're able to communicate. They trust you more. Those kinds of
whatever
things.
It is.
Yeah, and so it's like, absolutely. And for us, it just makes sense, because we're like, it really doesn't matter. It's like,
so let's talk a minute about those are some that's a benefit, right?
Yeah.
What can be a challenge with it?
Ooh, I think a challenge oftentimes is when you do have a new client and you're still figuring out and navigating that relationship, right? What is the best form of communication? Who really should be the person on it? You're gonna run into challenges. Maybe the way I communicate versus the way Jamie communicates is going to be very different, and maybe they would be better, but we don't know that immediately right out of the gate, right?
Right.
Sometimes that has to shift, and then the client may feel like they're being handed off, which is maybe a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, could be.
So I think challenges you're going to run into, right? I mean, that's just the nature of our business.
Yeah, and
but how you handle them.
Yeah, I mean that matters a lot. How you handle it's a big piece of it. I mean, there's always going to be a challenge, and to think there's not is crazy. There's going to be.
Yeah.
But it can do a couple things too if it's not managed correctly, because that relationship's about managing the relationship as well, not just making a bond, right? Are you becoming friends versus trying to solve business problems together?
Yeah.
And then you start out from the perspective of solving business problems, and it becomes a friendship. Does that overtake the other? And that's what you have to be careful with business relationships.
Yeah.
You have a little bit of both that has to blend in there a little bit. I think you always have to remember it's a business first. At the end of the day, they are giving you money, right? And whoever's spending the money doesn't care if you're friends, right? And that tends to happen sometimes. You have to be careful with that. Not a lot, but it does happen. I had another point I was going to bring up to you on that, where it's, especially when you're starting out, and you talked about that a little while ago, it's, well, here's another challenge that they're facing. How can we help? Okay, let's talk through those things. And it's not really within the scope of work while you're hired. But you're trying to help them further business and convince that you are there to be there long term. We want to help however we can.
Yeah.
But does that start to set the wrong expectation of, well, that should always be there no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's a piece of it. And we don't get into trouble with that much, honestly. But you do have to watch that sometimes. So that's where it can maybe get a little odd if their relationship is not managed well.
Yeah.
So that's the key to it, is to always be paying attention, I think.
Well, I mean, again, I can't speak for other agencies, but I know our agency, we literally sit down every single time there's an opportunity for a new client, and we go, is it going to be a good fit for us? Like, is this somebody that we could see long-term contract with?
Yeah.
And can we handle that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I mean, if other agencies are listening to that, that's definitely something you should be considering when you're thinking through those kinds of things. But
you always think it's just the bottom line. You got to get the dollars in, right?
So funny you mentioned that.
What a miserable way to live if you're the one doing all the work, right?
So let me ask you this: do you think there's an actual value that could be added, a monetary value, on handling it and building the relationship over long periods of time, right? So let's say a contract that's only a year versus one that's 5 years.
Okay.
Is there a monetary value that should be associated or added to or reduced, right?
Right.
Because it is a longer contract and it's not just a year, it is an investment that's being made on both sides at that point for a much longer time period.
I think that has a lot of value, honestly, because running any business, if you can count on revenue long term, it allows you to make different decisions.
Okay.
Right? If you have a contract that's going to be a month, and you may need to enhance an area that you're going to decide, this is what we need. You got to bring that in and manage that.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you know that's going to be the long term over 5 years, it's easy to bring that in, manage it, and build around that, and make the agency more robust, which can deliver a little better for the client as well. So I think there's huge advantage in that. Absolutely.
Do you see it on both sides though? I mean, that's kind of from an agency perspective.
The first thing you see from the client perspective is it saves them a little money, right? It takes a lot of your time away from accounting as well. So you're spending more of your time actually doing the work, and solving problems than managing the work.
Yeah. I
think that's the benefit of it as well. You can plan it, spend a lot of time up front planning it out, and then you're, kind of following the plan. It'll ebb and flow here and change a little bit here or there, but for the most part, everybody's on the same page. Where if it's shorter term, you've got to do all of this stuff, all of it, in a very short amount of time. You get slammed on it. It's why the cost goes up a little bit higher. It's why there aren't many agencies out there that want to do project work. There's some. Long term, that's a hard way to live because of that. So I think there's huge value in that. Does that answer the question? Or
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's the right way to think about it. Yeah. Right? But I was just wondering if you thought there was a monetary value associated with that. So but
I think it works on both sides, and now there's huge value for us because we're able to run and think we know it's going to be long term.
Yeah.
You can make different decisions now as well.
Creatively. Yeah.
Yeah. That you wouldn't get otherwise.
You'd think campaign.
That's what's interesting about it, and if it's saving the client a little money along the way, everybody loves that. And your results tend to go up a little bit too, because you can track that more consistently, and you can move more quickly through the process.
So, I think of like SEO, right? So even when we talk SEO with any prospective,
very long-term play.
Yeah, it's like, hey, like this is an investment, right? You're not going to see results day one. Like that's just not realistic. Probably not going to see them within the first 30 days.
And it tends to be an expensive investment.
Yeah, and it's hard, I think, for a lot of clients unless they're thinking about it as being a long-term strategy. They're like, I want SEO. Yeah, it's going to take a while. And if they're like, well, I only got 3 months, it's like, well, that's probably not the move you want to go with.
What are we trying to accomplish? Maybe let's think about some other ways to get there.
Yeah. I want to rank number 1 on Google. You can do that with AdDev.
You can. Who cares?
It's just a different spot. Right?
Yeah, is it the right audience? It's a whole other animal right there.
Right. Well, we'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of relationships? Do you have long-term relationships? Are you trying to look for I'd love to hear actually the answer from the brand side. Are you guys always looking for new agencies? Is it something where you want to stay consistent with an agency? Is it, is that something you're looking for? So love to hear from you guys. Leave us a comment, send us a note, whatever platform you're listening on. But you can always send us an email, agency@theglintstandard.com. Thank you guys so much.